So today we're going to be doing an alternate future of the world scenario. So yeah, last time we left off on the Third World War, and Russia beginning to advance into here, Los Angeles. But Kazakhstan, fearing that they might get annexed by Russia later on, started to declare war. Russia was not expecting this. They make some advances, a little bit of advances here, and they are forced to redirect some troops, which does take some it just does take some push out the Los Angeles ones, but the Russians still do advance a bit up to here. Finland does not feel threatened at all, and they decide to sign an alliance with Russia just to make sure they don't lose mermaids and stuff. And then Finland know that they're probably not going to be able to get there anyway anytime soon. Now, Bavaria decides to join against the Germans, and that was a pretty big mistake, as they get invaded and crushed pretty quickly. And huge goodness of German state. Meanwhile, the Dutch and the Netherlands surrenders the German. Actually, that does not look like this. Also would be the surrender color. There we go. Meanwhile, they do continue to advance into France, sneaking down to this river down here. And Italy spends its blood, so they decide to declare war on France. And France is forced to pull back to this river, and Germany gets pretty close to Paris, and comfortably close to Paris again. And let's take it. And France, like all the time, surrenders. Yeah. No nukes are launched because France was too intense. It was just way too intense. Now this is the borders for now. And yeah. Canada decides to declares war on Quebec, and Quebec calls in its allies, two allies, Maine and Maine called it Maine and the Midwest. Well, actually, the Midwest wasn't too much of an ally; they were just an ally of Maine, but they were called in by Maine anyway. So yeah, Canada knows it doesn't have much time, so they quickly make an advance towards Toronto. However, Maine troops from Maine begin arriving. And Michigan, so they're able to hold out in Toronto for now. The advances slow down, and Canada knows it's probably not going to win this war in the long term. Southern Mexico starts to invade into around smaller countries by invading Guatemala. Then it invades Belize. Central America feels kind of threatened, so they form a coalition against South Mexico, and Texas threatens to invade them if they don't stop conquering South American countries. They first off by invading Belize. Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, the capital just got captured. We surrendered, they say. Please do not hurt us, or else we will hurt you. At that point, it is a world war. Meanwhile, more countries are join the Russian side, like Brazil, and Argentina. Uruguay gets invaded by Brazil, which makes a lot of people mad, but they don't really do too much about it. Next, they declare war on Paraguay with Argentina, and this sparks fear in a lot of countries, and all of South America, and most of South, a couple of South American countries form a coalition against them, which ends up going pretty poorly. Because Bolivia gets blitzed through, it does end up falling the fallbacks to a certain river. What they do, they're held up in their fence. Meanwhile, Argentina, they break through the fence and Bolivia surrenders. And Peru ends it. So yeah, just let just let Argentina and Bolivia have just let Argentina and Brazil have the peace islands of Peru and Bolivia. And meanwhile, a second Ethiopia war breaks out. Ethiopia begins to invade the jointly occupied area, and this sparks a war between Egypt and Sudan. They're able to take it pretty quickly due to it being underdefended, and they push toward the capital of Sudan. Eritrea declares war, and Ethiopia was kind of expecting this. They let them advance a bit and then hit them back pretty far, encircling a bunch of troops, and they get them decimated. But Eritrea does not surrender because that was not even the most experienced of the troops. Meanwhile, Iraq is thinking, calling up, Iran is thinking of calling up Iraq to arms. And this war is basically becoming pretty chaotic. They're thinking about it like, they decided to tell Iraq, ask Iraq to join. Iraq declined, and they get invaded, which they kind of weren't expecting. So Baghdad is quickly captured, and then they surrender. We're just gonna make it a lighter color of their color. That's what they did with California. Right. Yep. No, Turkey told Azerbaijan to join the war. No one was expecting that, so they let Azerbaijan go down their coast a little bit. Fortunately, this turned pretty bad for the Iranians, and their capital almost gets captured. But they do a surprise attack, and bam, they cut off a bunch of troops in the sea. And this puts Azerbaijan into a panic, while Armenia decides to join the war to gain some territories back. And gain some territories back, they do. They take back a bunch of lands, mainly mountainous ones, and the whole Azerbaijani government is in panic. The Turkish government is quite mad. Well, Iran does make a slight advances in here, while the naval in the Arabian Sea continues. For now, China, seeing as the war is not going, it's just being a stalemate, decided to enact the ceasefire with the Manchurians. Meanwhile, they signed a peace deal with Korea. They get a little bit of border territory. Not, not this one. Not the important port, Vladivostok. And Russia is getting quite crippled, but due to the ceasefires in the east, or the peace deals in the east, Manchuria sends troops to Russia, and this helps them, and this helps them out. And this forces Poland, and Poland turns defensive into Germany, which is quite well, actually. And they nearly cut off Silesia from the German lines. However, they're forced to send troops over to here, and they're forced to fall back because of what just happened. and German troops kept arriving in higher numbers, and they managed to cross the river over here. Poland panics, and they sent a bunch of troops over here. And this, they're getting quite overextended. And this results in Russia causing white English to surrender over to them. Novgorod also surrenders to late Ruthenian rebels, seeing as Russia is coming back to save them. And this caused lots of resources to be drained to the rebels. Well, Kazakhstan is forced to fall back to the river with the arrival of Manchurian troops, just as we said. However, they are able to defend the line, and eventually begin negotiating a peace deal with Russia. Now, in Australia, many other Western allied nations decided to join Poland with Latvia and Estonia, like Australia and Papua New Guinea. Let's see what's in North America. Things have gotten even worse for the Canadians. The Canadians have begun advancing back, and talks of a union between the Midwest and the Northeast begin occurring, while the South decides to join the Texans in their war against Mexico in hope to gain land. And meanwhile, the Duke reclaims some land. They reclaim some parts of Florida. Nice. And they reclaim all Louisiana. Nice. They've made good progress, actually. Them reclaiming all of that, Florida. And they want to invade Cuba, but however, they only reclaim all of Florida just to be able to do that. And invade things too. The sequel. Russia, with more troops arriving, we need to push back against the Ukrainians. And this becomes a nightmare for the Ukrainians, as the Russians don't keep coming, they don't stop coming. Hit their ground running, and got the ball rolling. Didn't make sense to keep going when the Russians should remember that. Almost 20 million each one. It makes sense to keep going the Russians remember them. Yeah. So yeah, Ukraine ends up falling back, and Moscow does end up being captured. And now Russia looks like Russia, looking quite Russian yet. Ukraine means panicking when they fall back to this river over here. The Don River, they decide to fall back to the Don River. And they do, with some Turkish help, aid being sent, and Hungarian aid being sent. They managed to reclaim parts of the Don River. They set up defense line there. And they managed to get to the Oka River. And they are pushed just a bit back from this river. And the Ukraine goes on the defensive. However, Russia's got an idea. Decided to sign a peace treaty with Archangels and Novgorod, and they get fully annexed. And now, with this creates a border between them and Estonia. And now they could do something, they could basically do something like that. They could do, and then they can help the Belarusian and stuff. But yeah, that's just That could happen, but it's not guaranteed. I think that's how it's worded next year. Why does it look like a base? I will fix that in a minute. Oh yeah, with this, we should quickly send troops over to here. Estonia did not. I don't think Estonia joined the war, but they were forced to concede some lands to Russia in exchange for peace. Latvia did join the war. They took away a lot of parts of Lithuania, which is how the war even started in the first place. And they are cut off, and Latvians are cut off. They decided to give up on this area of Belarus. I'm just gonna call it Belarus now. And Ukraine knows that it's probably not going to last much longer, but they want to. So they decided to fall back to the Donetsk, whatever it's called. But in the end, they might have to fall back to the Dnieper. And this creates a pretty bad link between them and the Caucasians. And they end up just devolving into a bunch of warlike states. Kazakhstan takes advantage of this and begins invading into Ukraine, taking a bunch of Caucasians. Well, the warlord states prevent them from getting too far. It's not really something like that, but that's what I could come up with. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia, actually they don't, and they begin invading into Iraq. They pretty much just take it, and they make a unified front with the what's it called? Syrians, yeah. The Jews they're just sitting there, they're not doing much. They're just chilling. And meanwhile, UAE, Qatar, Oman, and Jordan had to join the war against Iran. And they make a union because no one's stopping them. No one. If they win the war, then the union will probably be disassembled. If they win the war, the union won't be disassembled and it'll be kept. But if they lose the war, then it'll probably be disassembled. Qatar decides not to join the union, but it gets invaded anyway, and the Bahrain becomes a strategic corner. It shifts hands multiple times. Right, and yeah, but in the end, with Russian support coming there, Iran is able to take it. So we are kind of ahead in time. But yeah, a total collapse at this point just begins. They advance past the Don River and setting up defensive level with Dynacrit, trying to invade of Kiev. Now this could, and the others had a lot of defensive in Crimea, and they were able to hold the line for now. However, was a campaign. Poland is able to defeat those by being involved. And if Russia and if Belarus is not able to push back, is not able to stay behind this river, they won't be able to launch a campaign to take Kiev and knock Ukraine out of the war, which will end up ending the war probably. Warsaw is under threat, and it gets seized, and yeah, oops, there it is, and yeah, it's taken, and that knocks Poland out of the war. Poland surrenders. I'm gonna replace light color. Light green is colored. Another one's color with its own color. Don't tell him. Yeah, the fall begins. Lithuania surrenders. Latvia surrenders. Well, actually, looks maybe belongs. That actually look could be Latvia. I couldn't tell it's Latvia. But Ukraine does not. They're the last holdout. And yeah, it's not looking too good for them. But yeah, they kept Kyiv, and they crossed the Dnieper River and captured Kyiv. This marks the end of the war. At the end of the war in Europe, Ukraine ends up surrendering. And guess what? Bulgaria managed to break through the front and they make peace with Greece. However, Bulgaria now is ambitious to be destroyed by Byzantium, so they decided to join Russia and they declare war on Turkey. Turkey was not entirely expecting this, so they do advance a bit. However, Constantinople was not easy to capture. Well, Constantinople. It's not easy to capture, so yeah. This just occurs. The stalemate does occur. Russian troops with Russia gaining Crimea, Russian troops are in the land in the north, first in small numbers, and then in bigger numbers. Saudi Arabia decides to surrender, as they know they'll probably be the last one holding out. Luckily, they just end up making a separate peace deal with that with Iran. But yeah, the capital of Baku, Azerbaijan is forced out of the war, aka they surrender. Meanwhile, Armenia begins advancing further westward into Turkey. And Turkey is forced, oops, that's a little bit too far actually. And meanwhile, Kurdistan does the same, advancing towards this river. Turkey is forced to hold out like this. And Kurdistan ends up invading into Syria and capturing Damascus. And then they were forced to surrender. So, they already planned to surrender when they realized Turkey was when they realized Ukraine had fallen. The other land's not new. Gotta make it better. There we go. That looks like a good story. Color first one. Why does it say 480? It's 2145. Interesting. What one did 100 years ago? What if I say World War III ends in 2145? 2140. Texas focuses on rebuilding and making out a peace deal with the Californians. Most of California's population is dead, and all the areas that California used to own combined only have about 1 million people. It's likely California's going to face a long war in the ruins. But probably no Ukraine's going to experience in this time. Too. Let me pick class color. That looks better. I think I remember. No, I don't. No, I don't think it's even playing any sound. Whoops. Wrong button. Why is it saying AFK? Well, whatever. Hold on, give me a minute. I need to do something. The heck? Oh, okay. So yeah, this is gonna be the end of the war at this point. A lot of countries have joined the Russian side. Support for them. More troops are arriving on this front, especially Bulgaria. Because a lot of people did not support Ukraine's aggression against them. And this is it's at the end. So the coalition. They contained Ukraine, Poland, and Latvia. And a bunch of other countries too, Turkey. You know, with more troops arriving on the front, Bulgaria is able to take Istanbul. Unfortunate day for Turkey, but the capital still has not fallen, and they will continue to fight unless something groundbreaking happens. And that groundbreaking thing is about to come, with the Kurds capturing Anfar and Turkey's government being captured, Turkey's people surrendered. Meanwhile, the South lands in the Yucatan Peninsula. Oh, wait, they already surrendered that time. And meanwhile, advances continue into Canada. Texas utilizes surrendered California to continue their advance into Vancouver, take their capital, and Newton, a city, and maybe 5. Actually just 1. Just 2. Nuclear launch. Canada continued to hold out for a few more weeks, but with the capture of the capital, the civilians take over, and just like all the other countries, they end up surrendering. A peace treaty will be made in the next video. And a bunch of people sent to help out Sudan, not because they don't like Ethiopia's aggression. And now this Ababa is captured again, and Ethiopia ends up surrendering again. We could okay, there. And they're willing to punish them severely. They're gonna get punished severely. Alright, that's it. Bye.